Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Scratch the Track podcast presented by the Dude and Grim Show and co-produced by Mr. IVEST. I am the Dude.
And I am Grim, and today we're going to take a little bit of a departure. Going from something we read, we're going to talk about our favorite 3 album runs by a given artist.
Yeah, you know, our co-producer, Mr. IVEST, kind of forwarded us this Reddit thread, and basically it had an image with a bunch of bands and kind of 3 albums they had of kind of each of the bands, and you know, your usual suspects were in there, a lot of famous popular bands obviously, but things like that always kind of garner, you know, just fun discussion and fun debate. So we kind of thought it would be a cool idea to just sort of put our own list together. So we're going to kind of go through our top 5, but then we sort of have an honorable mention list as well. So, you know, it's hard. I feel like when I was making my list, Grim, I was like, these choices are like almost too obvious.
Yeah, they are. But the question is going to become, for a lot of these bands, what 3 albums do you choose? Because it's not the fact that, I mean, let's go ahead and just call it out. It's not the fact that, like, okay, I'm sure both of our lists are going to have the Beatles and the Stones. Just say that now. But the question is, what 3 album run are you going to choose? Because for those 2 bands in particular, there's a lot of choice and a lot of good choice. That makes sense. I 100% agree. And I actually do have, like, I have with those bands, I have like, you can do a couple,
3 run, but then I'm like, you know what? There's definitely definitely a B to this.
Oh,
right?
sure,
like,
sure.
Grim, do you want to go first, or you want me to go first? I'm done.
I'm happy to. I'm going to start with my number 5 pick. Is going to be the newest one I have. Now, I did debate. Well, I'll get to that on my on the honorable mentions. But my first number 5 one is going to be from Radiohead, and that's going to be the pretty obvious run, which I would think. I'm sure there's other iterations of it, but my run is OK Computer, Kid A to Amnesiac.
Well, you know, Graham, it's kind of funny you say that, and we have not exchanged these, we've not shared these, so this is kind of a surprise, sort of. But Radiohead was also my number 5.
Oh,
and,
really?
Yeah, and it was OK Computer, Kid A, and Amnesiac. And now there is a part of me that feels like that's the obvious choice. On the Reddit thread, however, they had posted the Ben's OK Computer and Kid A. And so
I get that for a couple reasons.
I do. Yeah. You give your reasons.
Well, my reason is because of the growth it shows within the band. I mean, they had a pretty
There's an arc.
Yeah, for sure. And they had a pretty standard, rock album, still like somewhat different for the time, but for the most part, a fairly, I don't want to say run of the mill, but more standardized rock album. And then you had OK Computer, which was basically their answer, or I think a lot of people would be like, it's Radiohead's Dark Side of the Moon. And then Kid A is like, dude, they might as well have recorded that on the surface of the moon.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they just really go glacial with that.
They certainly do. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think I don't think you can really go wrong either way, because even with OK Computer and Kid A, if I'm gonna pick that apart, OK Computer, Kid A, Amnesiac, if I'm gonna pick that apart, you know, Kid A and Amnesiac are very close stylistically. I mean, obviously they're recorded at the same time. Both great albums. If I'm comparing Kid A and Amnesiac, Kid A is way above Amnesiac for me.
Well, sure.
You know, and even in my list, if I'm ranking Radiohead albums, Amnesiac's probably more towards the middle for me.
Yeah, I guess my reasoning for that is to me it's always still higher than the Ben's.
Yeah. I would definitely put it. Yeah, if you ask me right now, I'm going to put on a Radiohead album, and I only have 2, and it's the Ben's and it's Amnesiac. I'm going to put on Amnesiac.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, maybe not at a dinner party, but yes, I would.
The
definitely.
one thing I will say that I like about Amnesiac too is, by the time that album was released, I was like fully invested in that. Right? Like in Radiohead is the obvious choice for my favorite band that was out at the time.
Yeah, it was such a treat because that was our freshman year, and that's when Kid A came out, and that's when, you're right, we dove in, head first, and then all of a sudden, like, that summer or whatever, Amnesiac comes out, and you're like, holy shit balls, right?
Yeah, oh, for sure.
So, yeah. Well, I think that kind of wraps up Radiohead in our number 5. You want me to go with number 4? Or you want to take it?
Go for it.
All right, I am going to be so curious if we are completely aligned here. So my 4th pick is going to be a little band called Led Zeppelin.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now, I feel like I have 2 runs here.
Yeah, a couple different ones you could choose. Yeah. I'm already thinking of them.
Yeah, the run that I picked was Led Zeppelin 2, 3, and Untitled or 4. That's the run I chose. There's the other, my B would be 4, Houses of the Holy, Physical Graffiti.
That would probably be my choice.
The thing is comparing 2 and 3, and spoiler alert, we have a Houses of the Holy episode coming up, or maybe it's already released by the time this is out. Having listened to Houses of the Holy, I did. It was a nice refresh, and to me, I compare that to gosh, would I rather have Led Zeppelin 2 or Houses of the Holy? Kind of, it's sort of that.
Yeah, sure, yeah, that becomes a question.
Thing for me. So, but definitely the one common thread there is 4. And this is again, it's a bigger arc for Led Zeppelin, so that's what I had to go with.
Yeah, okay.
How about
fair
you?
Enough.
What do you got next?
My number 4 is a little band that you may know as the Rolling Stones.
Ooh, number 4. Wow.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. I'm surprised it's that low for you. I really am.
Well, I think you'll understand why. With the Stones, again, a couple different ways you could have sliced it up. One way being Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed, and Sticky Fingers. That would be a pretty good run right there. Boy, if you didn't have Emotional Rescue, you could even make an argument for Some Girls, an album better than Emotional Rescue and Tattoo You. But in my case, I am going to go with Let It Bleed, Sticky Fingers, and Exile on Main Street. Because I think Exile is just like such an amazing culmination of what they were doing in the late 60s. And it's kind of like it all just came into that album. And so for me, it's hard not to end with that. And I love that Let It Bleed, which kind of has these undertones in many ways of the based on that documentary, kind of coincides nicely with the whole Altamont bit. Sure. It to me, that 3-run album is like the end of the 60s into the 70s, which is an interesting transition too. So that's why.
Well, it's interesting that is your number 4, because that is actually my number 3.
Oh, so, okay.
2 birds, 1 stone here, 1 rolling stone here.
Yeah.
No pun intended. And like you, I did put Let It Bleed, Sticky Fingers, and Exile slightly above Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed, and Sticky Fingers.
Okay.
And now we did talk about this a little offline the other day, and the case I will make for putting Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed, and Sticky Fingers ahead of the one we chose is that, if I have to think about what is maybe the greatest Rolling Stones song, it might be not my favorite, but I would think the best it might be Sympathy for the Devil. And it's hard taking that album off of that 3 or taking that song and that album off a 3-album run. Now, obviously that being the best Stones song is up for debate. You have a million other great songs, but it's very high up there, and it's hard to take an album off. It's like, obviously Led Zeppelin 4 is where it belongs, and because Stairway to Heaven's a huge part of that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you're looking at those, I guess anchor songs that kind of, I don't know, paved the way a little bit and were a big deal for these bands. It's hard to leave off an album with that type of a song.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not changing my pick, but I accept.
Okay. So then that leads us to what your number 3 is.
Dude, this is another one that is, you could really slice up a couple ways. I chose it as Bob Dylan, Bring It All Back Home, Highway 61 Revisited, and Blonde on Blonde. In the course of 2 years, you have 3 of like some of the most, not only the most classic albums of the 60s released, the most classic Bob Dylan albums ever released, but the whole bit of Dylan going electric kind of in parallel to Bringing It All Back Home is just a huge thing in rock and roll in general.
Yeah.
I think another fair way you could cut that up, and one of my other favorite ones would be Highway 61, Blonde on Blonde, and John Wesley Harding in 1967. Also, 3 amazing albums put out in 3 years. So,
yeah, as I was looking at this and kind of starting to think about it, I not that I left off Dylan, but I did leave off Dylan. I think if I had to go Dylan, my 3 album run is starts with what, Bringing It All Back Home, and then
Highway 61,
Highway 61 and Blonde on Blonde. Yeah, I mean, I like John Wesley Harding, but if we're comparing John Wesley Harding to what do you call it, Bringing It All Back Home?
Yeah, dude, it's tough.
I can't.
I know.
I gotta go Bring It All Back Home.
I thought for sure you were gonna do Street Legal, Slow Train Coming, and Saved, but I guess 78, 79, and 80 weren't the years for.
Well, it might have made my honorable mentions. So.
All right. Well, I guess that brings us to number 2, dude.
Number 2. I have a feeling this is going to be your number 2, and that is going to be Pink Floyd.
Son of a bitch, dude. I'm going to go ahead and just ring the siren right there.
Going OT zone. Now, here's the thing, and I'd be curious your thoughts on this, and this would be a real ballsy move, too. I mean, my picks are Dark Side, Wish You Were Here, and Animals.
Quite obvious. I thought for sure it was going to be Piper at the Gates of Dawn, Saucer Full of Secrets, and what, like more?
Ummagumma? I don't know. Yeah. No, but here's the deal, man. I mean, to me, Dark Side is the greatest album of all time.
Yeah. It has to be on there.
It just is for me.
And the only reason this is not number 1 to me is because I think that my number 1 pick had a greater effect on music as a whole.
For sure. It definitely did.
But those are my obvious 3 for Floyd.
But, dude, think about what Pink Floyd's B would be. Wish You Were Here, Animals in the Wall.
Yeah, I mean, or if you wanted to show their development, what could you do?
Metal?
Metal. What's the other one that's
Obscured.
a soundtrack? Obscured by Clouds. Would it go obscure? I don't have it up in front of me, but would it be Obscured by Clouds, Metal, and then
Dark Side?
Dark Side. I mean that dude. That's also a pretty great run. Assuming that's even correct.
I feel like Obscured by Clouds is just not talked about enough.
I absolutely agree. One of my favorite Pink Floyd albums for sure.
It's so good, man. I listen to that. Just as much as I listen to, I have like the 4 main ones I listen to. I don't listen to The Wall as much as, but Dark Side, Wish You Were Here, Animals, Obscured by Clouds, and The Wall. Like those are the ones I would say I just go to the most. I really do.
Oh, yeah. It would have been, dude, Metal, Obscured by Clouds, and Dark Side of the Moon. That's a great run.
Okay.
Hell, even Adam Hart, Mother, Metal, and Obscured by Clouds for Pink Floyd fans is also a good run. And I can see the one about Ending on the Wall too, because I'm sorry, like I don't care how much you like Pink Floyd, they're one of my favorite bands, like top 2. But to me, Pink Floyd exists up until The Wall. The rest of it is just not the same. It's various members in and out of it, and it's just not the same.
Well, even with The Wall, Richard Wright was not overly involved from everything.
Yeah, but dude, there's enough keyboard parts in there where he was certainly making his mark, whether he wrote a lot of songs. But I know what you mean, because I think of some of them and I'm like, God, like the organ part on some of those songs is just
it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Well, I think that brings us number 1, Grim, and I guess I'll just let you do the honors.
Well, the question is, what 3 run of Beatles albums is it? Because
there's
a lot of ways you can skin that cat too. So to me, I chose my 3 based on what I thought or what I felt had the most overwhelming effect on popular music at the time and since. And that 3 run of albums is Rubber Soul, the US version, Revolver, and Sgt. Pepper's.
Yeah, that's what my list was too.
Now, was it Rubber Soul, the US version?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
I don't really. It doesn't matter.
If you're thinking about the influence on Pet Sounds, it kind of does, and because it's a better record. But
sure. I think for this kind of almost to me goes back a little bit to what we did with Radiohead of the Ben's OK Computer and Kid A, where it catches more of the full arc. And I feel like Rubber Soul, Revolver, Sgt. Pepper does catch more of the arc in that sense, because the evolution of those 3 records in just not obviously what they did for music, but you just saw the Beatles change as people.
Yes. Yes.
And what they were writing about, and it was also, I would say, the technological innovations that were being done in the studio from album to album as well.
To me,
right?
that's what it was. I mean, Rubber Soul was a really great album, but you could argue there were probably, a lot fewer overdubs than anything that, had come before and even after. But then, dude, like Revolver went into territory that I don't think anyone had been into. Like when you heard Tomorrow Never Knows, that must have tripped people out immensely when they heard it. And then Sgt. Pepper's is like so next level. I cannot believe it was done with an 8-track machine, quite frankly.
Yeah. I think the other 3 album run that I would put with them would be the White Album, Abbey Road, Let It Be.
Yeah, and that's fair. Or hell, even if you what came before? Oh no, because it was like
that's the thing, Magical Mystery Tour.
And that doesn't hold up. Not for a 3 album run.
It's hard, man, because it's like there's a lot of good songs on that, but that is of that. We'll talk Rubber Soul to Let It Be. That's the one I put towards the bottom.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, it still got great songs on it and everything, but even like I forget everything that was done with it, but it's one of those things where was it not released in the UK as an album, or it was released as an EP and some songs were missing. It's different than the other ones. I know that, and I'm sure someone who is a super fan will certainly correct us below.
Right after you go ahead and
like, subscribe, and comment below.
But so it's interesting though, because for me, if maybe if Magical Mystery Tour, I don't know, if I put it up a little higher with some of these, you could go Revolver, Sgt. Pepper, Magical Mystery Tour, Sgt. Pepper, Magical White Album. I mean, there's Magical White Album, Abbey Road. Like there's almost like every 3, it would just be its own run, right? Like you could do that. But to me, Magical Mystery Tour does break it up. It up. Now I got to ask you, that's our top 5, and everyone, after obviously you've just liked and subscribed, let us know what you guys think of our picks. Let us know if what bands and what your top 3 runs are. I do have a list of some honorable mentions that I thought it'd be kind of fun to go over. I don't know if you have any in
I do.
mind,
How many you got?
Okay. I don't know, like 8.
Oh, well,
It's, I mean, we don't need to go in crazy detail.
Okay.
But
honorable mention number 1.
Number 1, 9 Inch Nails, Pretty Hate Machine, Downward Spiral, The Fragile.
Interesting. Okay.
What do you got?
My honorable mention number 1 would be Elton John, Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and Caribou.
Wow. Okay. Another, I think, obvious pick, Nirvana, Bleach, Nevermind, In Utero.
Okay.
You got anything else?
Yeah, I do. That would be David Bowie, the man who sold the world hunky dory, and Ziggy Stardust.
Okay. Yeah. So
I know the Berlin trilogy is like the thing, but I know.
I feel like that's what everybody would not like. It doesn't do it for me like those albums do.
Yeah,
like the ones
correct.
You just mentioned.
Correct. And if I was going to do anything out of the Berlin trilogy, I would do Young Americans Station to Station and end with Low.
Okay.
But
that makes sense. I got one that's maybe a little, I don't know if I'd say less obvious, but one that maybe people wouldn't think about. Dude, Bob Marley, Rastaman Vibration, Exodus, and Kaya.
Well, that's a good one. That's a really good run.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a recent one.
Okay.
And that recent one is King Giz and the Liz Wiz. Now, they put out so many albums, it's really tough because Murder of the Universe is not my favorite album. But after that one, you got Sketches of Brunswick East and Polygondwanaland, two of my favorites of theirs. But I think if I'm just going to go straight 3-album run with them, I would go KG to LW to Butterfly. Oops.
KGLW.
No, I guess no, dude. But Butterfly 3000 is not what I was thinking. I was thinking Made in Timeland. So I retract. I guess I'd have to go with friend of the show IVEST, who said Paper Mache Dream Balloon, Nonagon Infinity, and Flying Microtonal Banana. That would be the run for them. It's tough because they have so many awesome albums, but there's just like ones that I'm like, that's not exactly my favorite in between there.
Yeah.
So,
just a couple more I can just throw out there. Dude, STP.
Yeah, I was thinking about them, dude. What's that?
Core Purple Tiny Music or Purple Tiny Music number 4? Those, I mean, that's...
I'd go with...
got 2 for me.
Dude, Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam 10 verse Vitalogy, right?
Yeah. That's a tough one to mess with.
Dude, the Flaming Lips, Soft Bulletin, Yoshimi, At War with the Mystics.
Yeah, I feel like At War with the Mystics
I know
is
At
a
War
little
is
weak, but
a little bit.
I mean,
Dude,
still a good run.
What about Gorillaz? Gorillaz, Demon Days, Plastic Beach.
Ooh, that's a really good run right there.
Yeah. Bjork, Post, Homogenic, and Vespertine, which I have not thoroughly delved into Vespertine, but I hear anytime we've done a Bjork episode, everybody's telling us to do that one next.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
It's got to be good, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The last one I had was John Lennon, Plastic Ono Band, Imagine, Mind Games.
Okay.
I mean, I think Mind Games is good. It doesn't. I don't put it up there with Plastic Ono Band or Imagine, but those are the ones I have on my list.
All right. Well, let us know what's on your list. I think this is an interesting topic for debate, nonetheless, and I'd like to see what everyone has to say.
Absolutely. Let us know your 3-album run.
But until then, it's time to go.
Oh, the Dude. Grim Show.
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by More. That's ... MORE and the Tims TIMNZ. Copyright 2020 to the Dude and Grim Show.